YouTube, what's new? Besides the world going crazy. So I had a video filmed. It is still filmed. I just don't want to put it out for various reasons. So this video, if you're new to my channel, I do a lot of like law school related things, and I did a whole series on bar prep. This video is going to deal nothing with that. In fact, this video is probably going to cause drama if the right YouTubers get a hold of it. I'm kind of nervous about that because, yeah, the Zelda community, pretty brutal. So this video is going to be about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and not necessarily a review of the game, but my critique of the review of the game from other YouTubers. I'm not going to name any names of these YouTubers. You can go find them on your own. So yeah, let's get started. So The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a game that came out. It's the first game I got for my Switch, and I absolutely love it. So why do I not agree with a lot of the reviews on YouTube about it? Well, first of all these reviews come from people who do video games for a living, and they all have a few of the same exact complaints, every single one of them. They complain about the shrines being all the same and too easy, and they complain about the divine beasts being the same and too easy. And there's like a few other small things. So before I get into that really deeply, let's talk about why I don't always agree with the Zelda YouTubers. So first things first, I don't think they gave the game a fair chance because they're basing everything that they do off of nostalgia, which I don't think is really fair. They're comparing it to games like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which are like the babies, like the precious things of the Zelda world, and honestly I think that's an unfair like pedestal to put those games on, but also I think it's unfair to new games in the franchise because everything is going to be compared to those. Second, not everybody has played every single Zelda game like these guys have, and I don't think that's fair to do comparisons to other Zelda games like they do with Breath of the Wild. And honestly, they don't do a great job in those comparisons because all they do is point out the bad. They don't point out how some of the games are actually really similar, aside from the open worldness that Breath of the Wild has, and comparing that to the open worldness of the first Zelda game. But there's a bit more. For one, they all say that there's not many overworld enemies, and I have to disagree because one of the enemies that they always forget is Wizrobes. I didn't know those existed until I came across my first one, and I was like, what is this thing? I didn't know how to beat it at first. I had to go look it up because I was so confused as to how to beat it. And so they completely forget about some of the mobs because they're not the main ones, but also they kind of ignore the fact that in the very first Zelda game, there's not many mobs in the overworld either. And I bring that up because they do a lot of comparison for Breath of the Wild to the 3D games only. They don't compare it to the original games. And I think that's a detriment because there is a lot of comparison to be made, but they don't compare the gameplay style. And honestly, in the very first Zelda game, a lot of the dungeons have very similar mechanics and similar aesthetics. They're all like dungeons. They all, like, from a viewpoint of a player, they all look the same. Maybe the coloring is a bit different, but they're all like stone. They all look the same, and it's not fair to say, oh, everything in Breath of the Wild, all the shrines are the same, and then not give that same point to the original Zelda games, because they're holding the original Zelda games on this platform of nostalgia, and that's not a really fair thing to do. Because here's the thing. When Breath of the Wild came out, a new platform is coming out. New people are going to be introduced to this game. It's not just going to be people who've played the game played all the Zelda games before. This is going to be the first game for the first Zelda game for a lot of people. And sometimes you need that repetitiveness, just like you needed it in the very first Zelda game. So, yeah, I don't think those comparisons are fair, right? There's other comparisons with other games that I don't think they make well. For one, and I'm going to talk about it later, but they only compare Breath of the Wild really to the 3D Zelda games. They don't do that well, and I will talk about that later because it makes a big deal later. So, now that has gotten out of the way, sorry you're hearing dogs, let's talk about the shrines and the repetitiveness of the shrines and why I don't think that their critique of them being all the same and quick is very fair. I'm bad at video games. I'm very bad. My play style is how far can I go without dying? And how many times am I going to die in the same section until I'll be like, oh, I need to like just stop. Right? So the repetitiveness of the shrines I actually find super helpful because it reminds me of game mechanics that I may have missed or that I'm not using properly. Like the amount of times I've had to go back to Kakariko Village and like retry to learn how to do a flurry rush, too many to count because I'm not good at it. Or like parrying. Not every enemy gives me the little buzz in the controller to parry at the correct time, and it bugs me. So the repetitiveness really helps you hone in on these skills that you didn't have before. And I don't mind them. And I know that's like a very unpopular opinion because everybody doesn't like the repetitiveness. Like every single Zelda YouTuber or person who has reviewed this game hates the repetitiveness. And I just don't think that's a fair comparison to make because lots of Zelda games have repetitiveness to them. Namely, like the first one, a lot of the water temples throughout the games have had very similar mechanics to you have to lower the levels. And yes, it's across different games, but also at the same time, it's a similar mechanic. Like, so, I don't mind the shrine's repetitiveness. I think it's actually helpful to help you hone in on your skills because like I said, if this is your first time playing a Zelda game, you're not going to have any of that like in your brain already. Especially if this is like the first video game you're really playing, you're not going to know how any of the controls work really well. And so you need that muscle memory. You need to get those movements in because they're not already there. So, yeah. So let's go on to the other big gripe, which is the divine beasts are all the same. They're not. And a lot of the YouTubers really only consider the dungeon the beasts themselves, which is where their comparison to other games kind of falls off because in Skyward Sword, the overworld that's not Skyloft, the overworld is part of the dungeon. And a lot of people had gripes about that. Well, in this, every single divine beast has at least 2 quests that go along with it before you can actually do the divine beast. And those 2 quests I consider part of the dungeon because they're taking that aspect of Skyward Sword that people really didn't like, shortening it, and adding it into the divine beasts. And not all the divine beasts are the same. Some are easier than others, obviously. But also some of them have very different components. Like the beginning of Varudania is all in darkness. You have to deal with the electric currents and whatever the camel is called. And so yes, they have similar aesthetics, but they're not the same. Some people might find them easy. I got very frustrated with the camel because my brain did not comprehend how to turn the 3 different things correctly. Because you can only turn them one way. You can't like go back and turn them backwards. You can only turn them like clockwise or something. So for someone like me who really struggled with that, it was hard for me. All the divine beasts were hard for me. I could not do any of them without having a walkthrough as well. I think the only one I was able to get away without doing a walkthrough on was Varudania, which was the second beast I did. But let's go to the quest beforehand, because all of the quests were similar, but they were also all different. The most different one being the one for Varudania, which was an escort quest up to Death Mountain, and then you use bombs and Yunobo and shoot at the Divine Beast. No other quest was like that where you and the champion descendant are working in tandem like that. All the other ones had you like riding on their back or following behind them, and you shoot arrows. This was the only one that had you use your tablet, your runes, and actually utilized the champion descendant. That's what I'm gonna call all of the people there, like Sidon, Tiba, and Reiju. I'm gonna call them all champion descendants because that's just easier. Because they all kind of are. So that was the only one that like really utilized that aspect, and I really liked it because it was different. But honestly, a lot of people find that the hardest and the most annoying because it's an escort quest. Well, if you don't rush through it like a lot of people tried to do, you actually get it done pretty fast. I didn't have to use a walkthrough for it. I found it super easy, but I also wasn't rushing through it, and I took it slow. And I think that's where one of the things that people miss out on is they're trying to rush through it, get the game complete. And people complain that that's like a super hard section and that's like a really frustrating section. Well, I'm like, well, everything else is too easy and this is too frustrating. Is there no happy medium for you? Like, what do you want from this game? Because obviously you're not going to be happy with it either way. You get something that's different and you're not happy with it. You get something that's the same and you're not happy with it. So make up your mind. But the fetch quests for the different ones are different. So one of the fetch quests, you go to the Yiga Clan hideout. That's probably the reason why most people do Thunderblight last, besides the fact that Thunderblight is like the hardest of the 4 Ganon Blight bosses. Because once you go to the Yiga Clan hideout, you have to deal with all the Yiga just showing up. Though, one thing I've noticed is you can run away from those guys and not have to fight them, which, clutch. But you have to go to the Yiga Clan hideout for one. You have to shoot targets for the bird, which honestly I thought that the amount of targets you had to shoot, because you only had to shoot 5, and that might be different on master mode, but you only had to shoot 5 in the regular mode. And if you have like full, like at least 2 bars of stamina, you can do it super easy. And then you had to go fight a Lionel for the other one, for the elephant. So like the fetch quests were different, and then you had to deal with different things as you were actually like trying to shut down the beast so you could go into it. Yunobo, you shot Yunobo out of the cannon. You shot at the standing guardians that created the force field around the bird. You're shooting at the feet while thunder was coming down on you, or lightning technically. And you had to get rid of ice before you could go shoot at the elephant. And 3 of those were actually really similar because you're basically a partner along with the champion descendant. Yunobo is the only one where you're actually working in tandem. Like, the champion descendant is doing more than just like being your guide, which is what Sidon, Tiba, and Reiju are all doing. So I found that's where I found the repetitiveness to be, is that there wasn't a lot of differentiation in that part of the quest, of the dungeon. And a lot of people are like, oh, the insides are the same. No, for me, it was 3 of them. You were literally either riding on the back of them or doing a sand seal, and you're shooting arrows at something. Where the one for Valrodani is different. So that's where I found the repetitiveness, not within the beasts themselves, because all the beasts were slightly different. You had to use different techniques for them. I had to use walkthroughs for like almost all of them because I was so bad. I'm just bad at puzzles, guys. But I don't think that the Zelda YouTubers really give enough credit to the stuff you're doing outside of the Divine Beasts as part of the dungeon, and I don't think that's fair, especially since they're so keen on comparing Breath of the Wild to the games that came before it that they forget that Skyward Sword, your entire overworld is part of the dungeon. Like, come on, guys. Why are you so wanting to dislike Breath of the Wild? Like, it's such a great game that you have to find something wrong with it, and I honestly don't agree with why you're saying that it's wrong, because yes, there is repetitiveness to the Divine Beasts, mainly what I said, but the insides of them, yes, the aesthetic is the same, but the types of puzzles and how you're doing them are different. You probably can't see it because you're not really looking beyond like your nose, but like, come on, guys. Give it credit where credit is due. It's doing something very different from before. It's trying to combine past games and new stuff to create something new. And it might not have hit it correctly on the head, but at the same time, it's doing better than you're giving it credit for. So, yeah, that's my big gripe. So, my other gripe that is going to be the real reason why Zelda YouTubers are going to come after me is they're kind of mean. Like, early on, like in 2018-ish, I want to say, every single video that I watched from a few specific YouTubers made fun of a YouTuber named MatPat. And you might know him from Game Theory or Film Theory. And I've never appreciated that because he makes one theory about The Legend of Zelda, and because everybody disagreed with him, his theory was wrong and he was okay to make fun of. He hasn't made a Zelda theory since. I think he's done a few with Peanut Butter Gamer, but he hasn't really touched the Zelda franchise since, and it's because these Zelda YouTubers have just come and attacked him and attack everything he does. And the thing is, what they're attacking, they do the exact same thing in their theories. Like, they hate that he focuses on certain things and leaves stuff out. Well, they've done the exact same thing. One of the things that comes to mind is a theory on discussing who Cass's mentor was. And someone was saying that it was Robbie, and their whole reasoning was something, but even though Cass says his mentor has passed in the game, they're like, that's not important, that doesn't help support my theory, so we're gonna ignore that. And I'm like, that's the same thing that MatPat does that you make fun of him for, and yet he's not allowed to do it, but you are. Like, where's the fairness here? If you're going to leave stuff out of your theories and make these huge jumping conclusions, you can't make fun of someone else for doing the same thing, because the thing is, y'all are all theorizing and you've essentially bullied him out of the Zelda fandom because he made one theory you disagreed with, which I actually like. So, Link is dead. Sorry. But yeah, please don't come after me because I'm small. I only have like 2 subscribers. Actually, I think I have 7 now. So like the video, comment, subscribe. But yeah, honestly, like, don't make fun of MatPat, especially when those early videos on your channels were essentially ripping off MatPat's editing style. So, like, come on. And I know you say you do it out of fun, but he hasn't done a Zelda video since because of how much hate he got and how much they rib on him by saying, that's just a theory in their videos, and they do it in a joking way, and I'm like, is it joking or are you actually still just making fun of him? because he popularized a category. You took on that and focused on Zelda stuff. Just because you focus on Zelda stuff does not make you the supreme authority on Zelda. Especially when you're doing the same thing he's doing. You're jumping to conclusions, leaving out stuff that doesn't agree with your theory just to make a point. So, yeah, that's where the drama comes in, is Zelda YouTubers are very, very protective of their theories and their fandom, and that's great, but at the same time, like, you don't own the category. Like, if I gave a theory right now, I'm pretty sure one of them would come on to my comments if they found this video. Let's be real, they're not going to find this video, but if they found this video, they're going to come on to my comments, or their fans will, and say, it's wrong because of this, 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 and this. Well, I did the exact same thing that y'all did. I ignored the facts that didn't help support my theory. Like, sorry. I'm just stating what's true here. That Robbie theory, that Robbie being cast as mentor theory, will always, like, grind my gears, because literally it's, like, in the video. I know Cass says that his mentor has passed, but I'm gonna ignore that and say, well, what if he didn't know that Robbie was still alive? Like, that's completely ignoring what game canonly tells you. You can't do that. Though you can, because you're not MatPat. Like, yeah. So, that's really all I wanted to say. I think that's everything I have. I just wanted to get all of that off my chest, because I've been feeling it for a really long time, especially as I'm, like, playing the game and finishing up. I just have always felt like their reviews were really unfair, especially for people who haven't played the game before. Like, yeah, you might feel that if you play every single Zelda game and have played the game multiple times and can just speed run the game. But if it's someone's first game, and first, like, real video game, like it is for so many, because it came out with a new console, it's not a fair, like, a lot of the critiques aren't fair to that, because you're basing it off of so much nostalgia and wanting so much and putting so much to it that you're not actually looking at it for what it is, which is a first game. For a lot of people, just like the first Zelda was. And there's a lot of repetitiveness in the first Zelda, so, so yeah, that's all I got. I hope you all have wonderful days, weeks, evenings, whenever you're watching this. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concern, comment down below. If you agree or disagree, all I ask is that you be civil. If you're gonna comment on this video, be civil. If I won't say I won't delete hate comments, but if they're, like, really bad hate comments, I may delete some. So just be civil. If you're gonna come at me, be civil about it, okay? I will happily debate you, but be civil, please. If you want to see more videos like this, if you have any ideas for types of videos, you can comment that below. But if you want to see more videos like this and law school related stuff and just other stuff I have in mind, subscribe and you will get, and hit the notification bell. If that does that even happen for people with, like, 7 subscribers? I don't know. So yeah, subscribe and you'll get notified, and hit the notification bell if it's there. And you will get notified when I put out new videos. So yeah. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you later. Bye!